DaVinci Resolve 21 is officially live. The full release. It's no longer a beta, it's no longer a beta, it's no longer any of those things. It is officially live. You can download the full thing right now, and that includes iPad. DaVinci Resolve 21. Let's go. And this new version brings a whole bunch of new features. Now, there's a bunch of new kind of AI stuff for all of you studio users, but we're not going to talk about that in this one. Instead, let's talk about some of the handy dandy new features which are available to everyone, because they're in the free version.
Much like this flat white, we're talking about itty bitty things which go quite a long way. And let's start off with the new preferences search. I know this sounds really boring, but if you click on DaVinci Resolve top left hand corner and you go to preferences, there's a bunch of stuff to do within here. It's a really useful place to go and customize things, but it used to be a nightmare to remember where everything was. Now there's a search bar, so you can just search for things and it'll automatically find them. So let's just type save, and it says project load and save settings, live save, give that a click, and there's even a little arrow pointing to our live save. Simple, I know, but it does save time. Now, while we're in there, while we are in there, let's talk about spell check. Now, it actually tells you when you've made a typo. So within that same preferences, make sure you're over on the user tab and then just search for spell check. And you will see spelling check. Now just make sure it's enabled. I believe it should be by default within DaVinci Resolve 21, but just make sure you do have a little tick in the box. Now in terms of the language, there is an input language and it will default to auto, so it should pick up the language. However, if not, you can set it by default from this list. Once that's done, if I grab a text plus and I just jump into here and start typing away, if I make a typo, it will give us our little red zigzaggy line underneath. And if I right click, it will give me some suggestions. Obviously, that doesn't spell anything. But if I spell a common word incorrectly, it says, did you mean chicken feed, chicken, or chicken feeds? So if I wanted to correct it, I just click on the word. I can ignore it to get rid of the squiggly line, or if it's a word that I use all the time, so let's say MrAlexTech is probably not recognized, which is correct. If I right click, it says, do I need extra legal, which I do not. I can click on manage ignored words. This means that we can add our own dictionary of words which we commonly use, which technically don't exist. So MrAlexTech, for example. If I add that and then click save, whenever I type MrAlexTech, it won't underline it as having a spelling mistake because it now recognizes the word. Something else people have wanted for a very long time is a slightly better way of managing your fonts. And now that's here too. We have a proper font manager. So I've got that same text plus and we've got MrAlexTech written in there and we have font. Now these work in exactly the same way. We can still scroll through and select the font we need. But if we click on this little icon over here on the right hand corner, this font browser will appear. And it's a full list with a preview of all of our system fonts. So fonts in DaVinci Resolve, just in case you don't know, all you need to do is import or install the font on your actual device, restart DaVinci Resolve, so make sure it's not open when you install them, and then those system fonts will pull through into DaVinci Resolve and you will see them listed within your font browser. Now, if we hover over any of them, you see we get this little star icon. If we give that a click, we've added that font to our favorites. Then over here, we have favorites. So if we give that a click, we can have a list of all of our favorite fonts. So every time we open this up, we can go favorites. There's all of my favorite fonts. I know I use this one all the time. I give it a click, I select, and boom, we've loaded that font. And sticking once again with text plus, small one, but it's worth mentioning, especially if you do social media content, emojis. Love them or hate them. You used to only be able to put emojis in the standard text. You couldn't put them in the text plus. Now you can. So I've got MrAlexTech still written in there. I'm on Windows, so if I hold my Windows key and hit my full stop or my period key, we get the little emoji kind of picker. It may depend on your device. If I go to my emojis, I can just do a little thumbs up. And that will appear in the box and it will appear in the preview. So then I can resize this. And there you go. If you're on Mac, I think you have to hit the FN key, I think it is, and then the emoji thing will pop up by default, or it may be different if you've amended things or on an old version of Mac. Google it. But if you load up the emoji picker, you'll be able to put emojis in there. Another small but really useful one, something I've talked about a lot actually on the channel in previous videos, stacked timelines or tabs and all that sort of stuff. Basically, on the edit page, I like to have this little bar here. It's super useful for switching between different timelines. You can also use it to jump in and out of compound clips. It's just a really useful thing to have. But you used to always have to come here and display stacked timelines. So every new project, you had to do this because you could never save this view. Now you can. So I've got this display stacked timelines enabled. I click on set as default view, and this is the view we get every single time we jump into Resolve. Now let's switch focuses a little bit and talk about the Fusion page. And the first one is this. It's called Combine Selected Tools. So I've got these two text pluses here, these little text boxes. So we've got hello and MrAlexTech. What I can do is select both of these, and then ordinarily you just get the two different options within the inspector. So you have to go and make the changes to each one individually. There is now this new box in the top right hand corner called Combine Selected Tools. If we give that a click, it combines those two text boxes into one. So any common controls like size, for example, or tracking, or we can go over to layout, or we can change the rotation, or we can come over to shading and whatever, happen on both of them, which is really useful if you've got a really big kind of composition going on. You don't want to have to go through and select them all individually and make changes. You can combine them all. It's handy. What's also handy is if you're creating macros. I kind of need to do a separate video talking all about this and macros in general, but macros allow you to save a composition, kind of export it out and then save it back in to the edit page, so it's always there, ready to go. Super useful for saving your own effects and titles and all that sort of stuff. And it used to be an absolute pig of a thing. It was a nightmare to use. Now it's much, much easier. So we can give this a name. I'll call this demo. And then previously what you'd do is you just come down and you'd tick all of your boxes. So you'd have to tick the things that you wanted to be included within your little tool that you're creating. But previously, it was just complete guesswork. You had absolutely no idea what you were doing. Now you get a little preview on the right-hand side, which is just nicer. So we can come through, we tick a bunch of stuff. It all appears within the preview. We can even then kind of live change things, so we can move things around, reorder things. If we want a separator, we can add a separator, which allows us to kind of separate things into different groups. We can do spaces, we can do nests. So nests are like little groups. So now we've got this little folder, and we can put things in the little group, the little nest, and they can expand like so. You can even add different pages, so then you've got different pages that appear. And then once you're done, you can click up here and you go save to edit template, and this is going to be a title. Now, if I jump back on the edit page, I've got this demo within my titles. I dropped this on my timeline. It's got my hello, MrAlexTech. And look, we've got our separator, we've got our controls, we've got our nest. It's just way easier. I'll do a whole video on that because it really does streamline the entire process of just making your own titles. You can also just grab some of the existing Fusion titles, jump into Fusion, tweak them a bit, and then save them back in. Again, really quick, really simple, really easy. It really does make it much easier for you guys to create your own effects library things. Right, now, let's just take a real quick minute to thank this video's sponsor, Audiio. Audiio is a music subscription service with a gigantic collection of music and sound effects which you can use in pretty much any project. It's real music from real artists, and you can simply filter the selection down by things like tempo or theme. But if that feels a little bit old-fashioned, they also have some really smart ways to find just the right music, like the brand new Hands 2. Hands allows you to describe the scene that you're working on or the music that you're looking for in kind of real human language, and it will search the entire music catalog to find you just the right track. Car chase, action, cinematic. Boom, here's your options. It's a really quick, simple, easy, smart way to find the music that you're looking for. Click the link down in the description below to head over to audio.com, pick up the Audio Pro license, then just use the code ALEX70 at checkout to get your 70% off, getting your first year of audio for just $59. Right, let's get back and start talking a little bit more about the free things within DaVinci Resolve 21. And lastly, for Fusion, we now have a whole bunch of new effects for you to have a play with, mess around with, and they do some really cool stuff. It's called Krokodove, which is this entire collection of effects. It used to be, I think it's been around for years. Blackmagic have absorbed it, they've brought it in, and now you get a bunch of new effects that you can play around with in Fusion. But there are also some which you can use directly on the edit page, which we'll come back to in a second. So I won't spend too long on this because there's too many of them. But if I click effects in the top left-hand corner within the effects library on the Fusion page, we've got tools. These are where all of your tools live. We now have a new one called Krokodove. And if we give that a click, there's a whole bunch within here. Connect, dither, extend, fragments, grow, microwaves, blobs, patterns, shapes, push, rest, bend, kaleidoscope. You can just grab these, bring them down into your composition, and then you can start playing with them. They do all sorts of different things. A lot of them have different masks. We've got mirrors, radials, shears, shuffles. There's loads of cool stuff to play with within there. But that's enough about Fusion. Are there any other fun new things we can mess around with on the edit page? Yes! There's quite a few actually, and there's some really kind of actually handy ones. There's a couple of handy ones which feel unfinished, so I may take it upon myself to finish them. I'll show you those in a second. So let's jump back over to the edit page and I'll show you what I'm waffling about. So, edit page, effects library. First of all, video transitions. There are some new ones within here. They all exist within this Fusion transitions area. Most of them you have to scroll down. They've slowly been adding more and more to this library, which is really nice. So we do have some additional ones. I've actually used some of these in some short form because I quite like these. We've got a mosaic center wipe. So you just drop that on there and you've got this nice little mosaic effect. There's a full mosaic, which I think was there before. We now have a mosaic dissolve, and my personal favorite, a mosaic edge wipe, which just kind of wipes across, just like so. Page curl, I think has been there for a little while. Perspective, I believe, is a new one. Posterize, drop that on there. That one's a bit heavier, but it does your nice little effect. And again, you can customize it within the inspector. We've got a ripple warp. Pretty snazzy. We've got a shape transition, which just puts these shapes on. It's quite a quick kind of cut style, which I don't mind. We have shatter, a 3-color flash, which I don't really like. It's not really me, that one. More transitions are never a bad thing, whether you use them or not. Next up, titles. So if we go to titles, we do have some more within here. And once again, they are slowly adding more and more. So we've got barrel. We can drop barrel on there, and we've got this sort of barrel effect like so. Remember, with all of these Fusion transitions, you can click on this little icon in the top right-hand corner to open in the Fusion page. So you can see how they work. You can open them up. You can explore. You can use them more of templates or kind of educational tools. And of course, you can customize them as you wish. And now with the macro editor, you can save them nice and easily. So we've got barrel. That one's new. We do have some other new ones down here somewhere. Ink bleed. That one's quite snazzy. I quite like that one. You get like a little inky effect. We've got a lava lamp. We've got lift, letterbox text. We've got a outline offset, a metallic steel, neon flicker, salmon. Who doesn't love salmon? So once again, speed, space, slime, split heading. Well, that was actually quite snazzy. The same thing with generators. So I originally missed some of these, but if we go to generators, we've got Fusion generators. We've got some nice ones like an abstract mesh, which is actually pretty cool. We've got a cube array. We've got diamond lines, disc wall. That one's been there for a while. Dreamy shapes. That one's pretty cool. Neo future. Soft waves. These are handy. So if you grab one of these, you can just put it on your timeline, and they're particularly useful for kind of backgrounds. If you want to do a bit of a title screen, They just animate, they sit as their own little thing. You can change kind of the colors and the design, and then if you grab a title and just put a title over the top of them, you can do a real simple sort of animated screen. Really useful for YouTube kind of videos and that sort of stuff. And then we've got effects. So we've got things like this arrow name, but for some reason it's an effect, and I don't think it should be an effect. I think that would make more sense as a generator, because you have to put it on your footage and then move it around. So that seems slightly strange. I'd prefer that to be a generator. But we do also have things like an energy mask, and we've got a hologram glitch, which is kind of cool actually. You can pop that on here. But you can also put it on text. So let me just grab chalk as an example, and then we'll go and grab that same one once again, hologram glitch. And if you want to create sort of a glitchy effect to your titles, you can. So that one's cool. I don't hate that one at all. I think it's pretty snazzy. And then if we scroll down, we've got these. A pen stroke arrow, a pen stroke circle, and a pen stroke line. So let's get rid of that and put it on this lady over here. And we get this animation. It draws it in, and we've got an arrow. But I have two issues with this. One, I don't know why this is an effect. This should be a generator, because it doesn't need to sit there. It should sit above it. It's kind of strange. And it also doesn't reverse out. Now what you could do is scroll up to the top, grab an adjustment clip, then grab your pen stroke arrow, drop it on the adjustment clip, move it over here, and then you've got your arrow just like so. But I would prefer it to be a generator. But I think I'll fix those. I think I'll fix them and expand them and try and do a list of, I don't know, 10 or 15 little pen stroke things that you can all use for free. So if I get some time next week, stay tuned. I'll try and do that. Then still within the effects area, we have Krokodove. So here we don't have quite as many as you do on the Fusion page, but we do have some. So we've got bevel, duplicate, extrude, generate, pack, rasterize, and spherize. So I like rasterize, for example. We can drop that on this clip, and then let's just change the size. So now we've got all these little dots that make up our title. Now the cool thing with that is you can drop it directly on your footage like so, and then you get this really cool, there is a name for this, Pantone, Haltone, something, and then you can come along and mess around with the sizing. And if you go to the color tab, you can change it to image, and it'll pull through the color from the image underneath. It's a cool effect, and you can mess around with it, change the shape, change all sorts of fun stuff with it. So have a play with those Krokodove. They're dead easy. You just click and drag, drop them on your footage or on titles, and see what they do. And last but not least, we of course have the photo page. In the new version of DaVinci Resolve 21, there is now a photo page. So you can import photos and you can do stuff with them. And fortunately for me, Lumix RAW are now supported. So I can use my Lumix cameras, I can go out, shoot RAW, and I can import them in, and job done. Now I'm going to make a dedicated photo page video next week, so stay tuned for that. I won't jump into it in this one, I'm just telling you it's there. There's too much to talk about, it'll take too long. So instead, subscribe, and then next week there'll be a video all about the photo page. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Thank you to Audiio once again for sponsoring this video. Thank you to you for watching. Thank you to YouTube for allowing me to do this sort of thing. Thank you to Cafe Nero for the coffee and all that sort of good stuff. Thank you all very much. Take it easy. I'll see you next time.